Hi friends, I'm Abby and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking through all of the series that I finished in 2021. So in 2021 I finished 12 series, which I'm really happy with. Some of these were series that I had ongoing from previous years. Some of these are series that I read in full, and I'm really happy with that I completed 12. My goal was to complete 10, so I'm really happy to have got to 12. And then, I mean, aside from this, there are other series that I got up to date in, but these are just the ones that I completely finished. As well as this, these 12 new ones, I did reread 3 series to completion. I did reread the Mistborn series, and I finished this off at the beginning of the year. I finished my reread of The Hero of Ages. I did also reread the ACOTAR A Court of Thorns and Roses series in preparation for the 4th book that came out. So I reread all 3 of those, and I did reread the David trilogy, and I finished that as well. This is like an all-time favourite series. Like, I think this is like the 3rd time that I've read it, and I reread this to co-host with Vish on her buddy reads that she does. So there are videos up on each of these books on her channel, and they were all excellent rereads. Like, excellent rereads of some of my favourite series. So those were just 3 that I reread to completion of some of my favourite trilogies. And then the 12 new ones. So I have split this up into demographic. So if you're only interested in the adult books, YA books. So I will start with the YA. There will be timestamps in the description. So we'll start with YA, then there's one new adult, and then adult. And you can pick whichever ones you want to hear about. So in terms of the YA series, I finished the Ember in the Ashes series by Sabaa Tahir. This is the 4th book, A Sky Beyond the Storm, which I read in January. This came out in December. So I reread the 3rd book before getting into this, and I liked it. I liked it. This isn't like a favourite series. I think it's a solid series, but for me the 1st book is my favourite. I don't find this to be the most memorable series a year on, but I think it was a solid YA series. I am interested in seeing what Sabaa Tahir comes out with next. I think she's a very good writer, and I think she does have some like interesting characters and world building, but for me that 1st book, nothing stands up to that 1st book in this series. But I am really happy that I finished this off after reading it for many years. Another one that I finished very early on in the year was the Curse So Dark and Lonely series by Bridget Kemmerer. As you can see, I'm holding up the 1st book because I actually unhauled the 2nd and the 3rd book because they just don't stand up to this 1st book. Again, the 1st book is the one that I love the most. But again, I'm really happy that I finished this series. The 1st book you have 2 main characters, and then the 2nd book is 2 different characters, and then in the 3rd book they all do come together and you get all the perspectives, which I did like, and I do like this world and I do like the characters. But it was this 1st book that I really liked. This one's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. The other ones aren't so much retellings. But yeah, I mean, I liked it, but it's not the most memorable. I think that's what I can say about a lot of these YA ones. I mean, I had quite a few of these YA series ongoing for quite a few years, and I did end up just finishing them off in 2021, but I don't know if any of them are really favourites compared to some of the adult books that are coming up where they are favourites. Speaking of which, King of Scars. I finished Rule of Wolves this year. I wasn't a massive fan. I was quite disappointed in it, but I did finish the duology. I'm done with the Grishaverse. I'm done. I'm drawing a line in the sand. I am done. I'm done. 9th House, I will read more Leigh Bardugo. I will read more 9th House, but I think I'm just done with the Grishaverse. I will watch the TV show, but I don't need any more books. It's just a money grab now. But I did finish that duology. Otherwise, another series that I've been working on for many years was the Graceling series by Kristen Cashel, this blue being the last one. So finished this one. I think this one is a very solid YA series, and I think it really stands up because it's considering how long ago this was written. I really thoroughly enjoyed this. It was a fun ride. I liked the characters, I liked the world, I like the magic, I like pretty much everything that's in this. I think it's really well done, well written, just a very solid YA escape. And then the final YA series that I finished was the Crown of Feathers series. This one I actually did start this past year. And I did really like this series. I think this is a very solid YA series. I think it bridges YA to adult. It's definitely YA, but it does have some of the aspects that I like about adult fantasy. It has multiple perspectives. The world building is really it's a really in-depth world building, and you get a lot of detail into like the history of the world, the lore, the different political factions, the different warring tensions that built up. And so I feel like the world building in some ways is very adult, as well as some of the themes in this. It does a lot with like sibling relationships and tensions and like your political, your standing in society. I think it has some really interesting themes and like some dark themes that are dealt with in this series. And I think this was a very good conclusion to the trilogy, and I'm really happy that I read this year. Again, this was for Vish over Books with V. It was her channel buddy read. Oh, I missed one. I read the whole of the Chronicles of Ixia this year. This one I think is like YA to new adult because some of the characters are older. Like I feel like I've seen this in both the YA and the adult section of the bookstore, at least here in the UK, and I think it's written in a very YA writing style, but the characters are older. So I guess that's where it gets a bit confused. So I read the whole of the Chronicles of Ixia. So you could say that that's 3 trilogies, or you could say that that's one 9-book series, because it is split into like 3 trilogies, 3 arcs. And I read this with Vish and our friend Sam, and so yeah, I liked it as well. So there we go. Those are the 6 YA series that I finished in 2021. And now I can see that there's 6 there, and seeing them like stacked up, I can see why I'm a little bit burnt out on YA. Even though like I do read predominantly adult, and I did read predominantly adult last year, but I do feel like that was a lot of YA series to work my way through and to finish off. And I'm very happy that they're now finished. And I'm happy that I can spend a bit more time working on some adult series now that those are all closed out. Not that I didn't enjoy them, like I did enjoy them, but I'm just happy that I can have a little bit more of a lean towards adult in terms of my finishing off of series. That I think about 70-80% of my reading is predominantly adult, so I'd like my series number to reflect that. One of the new adult series that I finished was the Bridge Kingdom duology. So this is, I guess it's a tricky one to class it as, because this is a duology, it is complete, it is a finished arc, but Danielle L. Jensen is continuing in this world, and there is going to be further duologies in this world. So I don't know how many duologies in total, that she's got this duology, which is the Bridge Kingdom and the Traitor Queen, and then there's another duology following other characters that we did meet in this, and it is going to further the plot. I think like it's after the events of this duology. So in some ways it's still ongoing, but it's also complete because the arc of these characters is complete. But I really like this. This is a new adult fantasy romance. I liked the characters. You find this girl as she infiltrates one of the island nations that controls the bridge between 2 continents, and the sort of the power dynamics as she is there to be married to him, but she also wants to take control of that land for her father and her father's kingdom. And it's that dynamic as she comes to realize that her father may not have her best interests at heart. It has some of my favorite tropes in here, that sort of enemies to lovers. The second book has other tropes that I really like, which I can't get into because spoilers, but I think this was very well done. And considering they're really short, like they're 300 pages or just 300 pages per book, like a lot is packed into these pages, and I really like the writing style, and I think this was a very solid duology. Really fun. Now moving into the adult books that I finished this year. The first one, which I think is the younger side of adult, if you can have a younger side of adult, is the Queens of Renthia series. So I started this in 2020 at the end of it, and now I finished the 2nd and the 3rd book this year. This again is not a series that I absolutely love. Like maybe a lot of these aren't ones that I fully loved this year. I liked this series overall. I think it has an interesting magic system with these sprites. I like that it has these different characters that you're following. But for me, although it's advertised as adult, it did read quite young. I think it, again, like with the Chronicles of Ixia, you have this disparity between the writing style and the characters, that the writing style reads like a YA book, whereas the characters are older. And so it's like, well, where do we place this? Where do we place this 40-year-old main character with this very YA writing style? Where does it sit? And so, yeah, I'm happy that I finished it. I enjoyed it. And I think I liked the setting with the forest setting. I liked the characters and their development, and seeing how they dealt with the political situations in the monarchy and the issues that they have with the spirits as they try to control them and try to live alongside them. Start with one that I didn't like, but I did finish, was the Books of Babel by Josiah Bancroft. I mean, I've talked about this before, that I was lukewarm on the first 3 books of the series, that I gave them 3 to 4 stars. Like, I liked them but did not love them. I never was fully invested, but I did really hope that the 4th and final book would be a hit, and it really was not a hit. It was a flop. But this, you were following Senlin, who goes on his honeymoon to the Tower of Babel with his wife Maria, and at the beginning of the first book they get separated, and then the rest of the series is them trying to reunite. You're only really following Senlin in the first book, and then the second book is a multiple perspectives story, and that's how it expands. And then I feel as though the series goes on, it stops being so much about Senlin and his journey to find his wife, and is more of a thematic exploration of the Tower of Babel. Though I'm British and should say Babel, I think watching so much booktube and watching people say Babel, it becomes complicated because all I hear is babble, 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 and then I have to remind myself that no. The correct British pronunciation is Babel. And the same thing's happening with R.F. Kuang's new book, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm going to start sounding American when I keep saying babble. Ugh, Babel. But yeah, I really struggled with that fourth book, but happily that it's now complete and I can forget about it and move on with my life. Moving on to some more positive series. At the beginning of the year, I binged the whole of the Divine Cities series by Robert Jackson Bennett. I have really enjoyed his Foundry Side series. So going into this, I had some pretty high expectations. I liked City of Stairs, and then I really liked City of Blades and City of Miracles, and I think this is a very solid conclusion to the series. The series, like, you have different main characters that are side characters from the other books. So in the first book you have one main character called Shara, and then the second book you have another character that we met in that first book, and then this one again. And I really liked our characters. I really liked the time that we spent with them, that there are large chunks of time that go on between the books, that you really get to see these characters' lives and their growth and the world. It was an interesting world. Like, I love the theme of religion and divinity in books, and seeing how that is dealt with as well, when like there is the rise and fall of different magical powers. So I like the way this was done. I liked the first book. I struggled a little bit getting into it with the writing style, and I can definitely see how his writing style has improved and grown in the Foundry Side series, which I'm really looking forward to finishing this year. That's going to be on the 2022 list. I can finally finish that series because the third book's finally coming out. But I really like this. I think it was a very solid trilogy, and I do definitely look forward to reading more and more Robert Jackson Bennett. Another series that I loved, we're into positives, I love it, was the Of Blood and Bone series by John Gwynne. If you're new here, I love John Gwynne. I love John Gwynne's books. I've read them all. I've read them all by now. And yeah, I absolutely loved the end of this trilogy. At the end of The Banished Lands, I can't talk about it because it's the seventh book in a series. You have like the 4 books in the Faithful and the Fallen, and then you have a follow-up trilogy which is set 130 years after that. And I love the way he writes action. I love the way he writes I love the way he writes characters. I love the way he explores worlds and battle scenes and tensions and conflict and twists and turns. His chapters are generally pretty short, so you can just fly through them. You have to just keep going. You can't stop. And the emotional impact his books have on me, the way that they break my heart, and the way that he like slowly puts it all back together again and then shatters it again and then puts it back together, and like these books are so satisfying and painful and everything all at once. All the emotions I feel reading John Gwynne's books. The final trilogy that I finished this year is the Greenbone Saga by Fonda Lee, this third book being Jade Legacy, which I absolutely loved and adored, and read it in December, and it was perfection. It was amazing. Characters, again, like the John Gwynne books, this was like, and punch in the heart, and we will say put it back together, but no, punch back in the heart again. Like, it makes you feel these emotions. I am so invested in these characters and their lives and the ramifications of what's going on, and the different cultures and the Jade and the world and the political tensions between the No Peak and the Mountain Clan. I really would recommend this series. I'm really very happy with the way this ended. This was such a solid conclusion. So happy with it. So pleased with it. I really thoroughly enjoyed reading the Greenbone Saga, and I read the second and third book this year, and I loved it. So those are the 12 series that I finished in 2021. I think there was a lot of like lukewarm there. There's like some peaks, some lows, but a lot of in that middle chunk. And I think that's because quite a few of them were YA series that I had ongoing for many years prior to this. And I think that's one of the things you grow older, your tastes change, and what I was reading 2 years ago is not necessarily what I want to be reading now, and that I do predominantly want to be reading adult nowadays and not so much YA. So maybe that's why a lot of them were lukewarm. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my future videos. Bye!